to go back to make it a prusik loop, all I'm going to do is I'm going to overlap my lines, and I'm going to take one side and I'm just going to tie a thumb knot on one line. Just a simple thumb knot on the line. I then flip this line over, do the exact same thing. I'm going to take this side, I'm going to tie a thumb knot on top of this one, so that on each side the tag ends should be facing outward. So my tag end for this one is facing away from my knot, and this one is also facing away from my knot. Now when I pull these down and tighten them up, they're not going to pass through each other. So this is called a fisherman's knot. It's also a bracelet knot. But now that gives you a prusik loop. So now once I have a prusik loop, then I can start using this for all kinds of things. So for example, I can do a lark's head. So to make a lark's head from a prusik loop, I'm just going to take my loop, I'm going to fold it in half to give myself a set of bunny ears. And now I'm going to fold these in half this way. And now I can take any kind of toggle, whether it be a tent stake or a stick, and I can put in here, and now I have a lark's head. And now this is the kind of thing that if I use a toggle here, then this is I can put onto the tarp, the tie out on my tarp. This is how I put the toggles on. I do this all the time if I want to hang my lantern off a toggle like this. This style, this lark's head, is ideal for hanging toggles in the middle of a line. I don't need to have an end of the line. I just right in the middle, and that's not going to come out of there. And now I can hang things from here. So like I said, a lantern onto here, and if I want to take the lantern off and on, I don't have to untie knots. I can just pass it over my toggle. So that's a lark's head. These are the tent pegs that we've been using to nail down the big kanguk. This is probably the only tent peg I've seen that we can actually get into the ground here in Newfoundland. It's just so rocky. We have in the past used these, but these just, you hit a rock and I find that they crack off. So they hold all right if you can get them into the ground. But just trying to get these things into the ground is just almost impossible. Even these things, I have bent them, trying to get them into the ground. But this is the best thing I've seen so far. I guess it's about 8 inches or so. And we just hammer them in with an axe. The problem is then trying to get them out. So I come up with this. So I just take a piece of paracord. And in this case, we just have a single fisherman's knot tied here to give ourselves a loop. And then you could do something as simple, and I have done this. So this is a lark's head. Just pass it through the loop once. Let me do that again. So I'm just going to pass this through the loop once. And this is called a lark's head. I think it's also called a cow hitch. This is a lark's head. And that way then I can take another tent peg, and that gives me something, so if this is in the ground, then I can get some real pull onto this. Just trying to simply grab onto this is not much, and I have cracked these off in the past pulling on them. But this way then I can really get some pull onto it without damaging this and without really cutting my hand. So that way I can get these things out of the ground fairly easily just by doing that. Now if you want the problem with the lark's head is it doesn't stay tight, so they're just constantly slipping, and then over time they're loosening up. So the other thing then that you can do is take your lark's head put one twist into it and then pass the bite back through here. Once that's tightened down, this is called a bull hitch, and it's a lot tighter and it doesn't tend to slacken off the way that a lark's hitch does. So let's do that again. So to go from a lark's head, I'm just going to pull this out a little bit. Here's my loop. I'm going to put one twist into it. Put one twist into it. And I'm going to pass the end up through it. And once that's tightened down, it's a lot tighter and less likely to slacken up. And I still have lots of line then that I can hook and pull up my tent pegs. So to go from a prusik loop to a prusik knot, I'm just going to pass my, this could be a ridge line, it could be a toggle, it could be a rope. I'm just going to pass it over and I'm going to take the end and I'm going to go through once. So that's a lark's head. And go through twice through the center and 3 times through the center. Once this is dressed down, I should have all of my lines should be nice and parallel with one loop passing over them. And now again, I can still put a lark's head onto here and hang something from here, or I can put a carabiner on here. This gives me lots of options. But if this were a ridge line, then when you try to pull on this, it becomes almost impossible to move. Now, this being a nail, it may not bite very well. But this works best if my prusik knot is a smaller diameter cordage than my ridge line. So for example, if this were paracord and this were bank line, then that'll bite in very well. It doesn't work as well if the 2 lines are of the same diameter. But that is not going to move pulling this way. But yet if I want to slide it, it'll slide back and forth very easily. But this way, it bites. But I can put a lot of force on that and it's not going to move. Certainly not, because it's not, especially if this were rope and not just a nail. So that is a prusik loop and a prusik knot.
This guy seems to be stuck. He's not dead.
So I've got a ridge line here hanged up. It's just a piece of paracord, and on one end I've got this really large loop, just tied off with an overhand knot, and then to seize the end I've burned it, and I've got a little thumb knot here as well. The other end I also have a thumb knot and is burned just to protect the ends. I want this loop to be big enough that the entire hank can fit through here. I'll show you why now in a second. So what we're going to do, I've started off, when I made this hank, I started hanking with this end, which means that I can easily pull this out and it will easily deploy. So now I'm going to come around the tree. Now I've got a couple options. Because this loop is so big, I can just easily do that. Easy peasy, done. Or I can pull a little bite through here like this and then take a stick off the ground and cinch it down. And then when I'm ready to go, I just pull this stick out and it all falls apart. So I'll show you that again. So I'm just going to come around the tree. I'm going to start to pass my line through. Put a stick in here and then tighten it down. And there's no way that I will ever snap that stick just simply by pulling on it. And then when I'm done, I just let it go. Or the other way to do it, I just take a carabiner, and like I said earlier, we're not lightweight campers, so I'm not worried about weight. I can just take a carabiner, hook onto here, go around the tree, and do the same thing. So now I haven't passed that through the line, and I just hook and unhook, easy peasy. And again, that's strong enough to take the weight of the line. So the way that this is all hanked up, I can simply pull on this end and it's all going to easily play out in my hands with no knots, no tangles. And I can just pull all this out. It's all just going to come out in my hand. And you can see I've already got my prusik loops already on my line, and the whole thing comes apart easy peasy.
Afraid of getting my heart attack.
Other end of our ridge line. So there's a couple different ways to tie off the loop to get a really tight line. Typically the way I used to do it is I would make a loop. Just make a loop, pull it in through, and then pass this through. And now I can pull on this, and this gives me a tackle that I can pull on. And I can make that bar tight, certainly tight enough. I can make that bar tight, and then when I'm ready, then I can pinch this and put in a slippery half hitch. So now when I want to get it undone, I can just pull on this and it all pops out. The problem with this is that it puts a lot of tension on this knot, and so now when I'm trying to get this out, this can be tricky to get out, and it's also putting a lot of wear and tear on your line. So the other way to do it, or one of the other ways, is to put in a prusik loop. So here I have a prusik loop that I can slide anywhere I want along the line. So it depends on how long I want my ridge line. I can slide this anywhere that I want. Now in this case, I'm using paracord on paracord, which is not the best prusik loop. I should be using bank line, but this will work. So now I can pass my line through here, just like we had. And I can still slide this knot anywhere that I want. And I can wrench down on this and still get it as tight as I want. And now I can still pinch, put in that slippery half hitch. And I'm still as tight as we want. But the advantage to this is there's no more knots tied in my line here that I have to struggle to get out. So when I'm ready to go, again, I just pull on this, that comes out, this stays on the line and just lives there permanently. And then when I want to pack up, then I can move this to anywhere I want. my cordage, I always want to start with this end, because this is the end that I want to start with when I want to deploy my ridge line. So I'm going to hank up this end first. I'm just going to drape it over my pinky just to kind of get it out of the way, let it hang down a little bit, and then I'm going to wrap around my pinky and my thumb. I'm just going to go around my pinky and my thumb and just let those prusik loops get wound in. They'll come out easy enough when all this loosens up. I'm just going to go around and around and around. Once I get a little bit of line left, maybe a foot or so, I can take this off my hand, and I'm going to put a half hitch into this. And that's it. Now when I'm ready to deploy, I just pull on this end and it will all unravel just by pulling on this end.